Thank you for tuning in to episode 55 of the Sakelite Experience with my good friends Sean Bell and Mitch Viney. For context, this conversation was filmed in December 2024 and was a fascinating two-part discussion, diving deep into Sean's world record run around Australia, as well as the motivations behind this incredible feat. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. Sean Bell, thanks for joining me, man.
Mate, thanks for having me.
Let's giddy up. You've achieved more, or you achieved some stuff in your short life that I think most of us would think is insane. Have you had people say that before?
Yeah, I have, and it feels weird, to be honest. I don't know, it's been nearly 4 months now since the run around Australia, and I don't think it's sunk in yet. So it is special to hear those words, but it still feels a bit funny.
What are the dominoes that fell into place from a young age that you think caused you to do what you want to do now?
Growing up, I grew up in Vermont, small suburb out in the east of Victoria, and footy was everything for me. Playing with teammates, and it was something that I loved. And but one of the things that I found with football as well was it was something that when I was going through a tough time, it would just help me switch off. Running became that eventually, and we'll talk more about that. But growing up at home, life was pretty tough, and I found myself wanting to kick the footy, found myself wanting to run. And ultimately, I think that, without going into details, I was exposed to a lifestyle that I didn't really agree with. And I'm a big believer that in life, you can model behavior that you see directly, or you can model the opposite. And it drove me to be the person that I am today. So it's something that I'm proud of. And, I think that footy and running has been a huge part in shaping my journey.
Life was tough. Was this at home or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Growing up, I would always compare myself to everyone else and I wasn't happy. Everything was about what others had that I didn't. Life was simply about all what I could get. The day I changed my focus to what I could give, my entire life changed. This is where true happiness and fulfillment lies.
This is a quote from
you.
Where?
I dug it up.
That's huge.
Down the bottom. I can read it again if you want.
Read it again.
Growing up, I would always compare myself to everyone else and I wasn't happy. Everything was about what others had that I didn't. Life was simply all about what I could get. The day I changed my focus to what I could give, my entire life changed. This is where true happiness and fulfillment lies.
It's huge. That's true. I think many things have shaped my journey, but a big one was in 2017. My mum took me to Tony Robbins, and that all came from in 2016. I mentioned how playing footy was everything for me growing up. I unfortunately lost one of my teammates, Joey. He went to bed and didn't wake up, and to this day they don't know why. And when something like that happens so young, it definitely shapes you. For the 9 months or so, 8 months from July to March, I was really struggling, and my mum took me to Tony Robbins in March of 2017. And he was someone who, growing up, had it quite tough, and ultimately, learned through his journey that we get a lot out of giving to people. And also, if you can connect what you love with something that you're great at or a strength of yours to then make a difference, it's such a huge thing that, ultimately inspires people. It helps people directly. It helps you feel fulfilled. There's so many parts to it. So yeah, definitely, it's a lot to hear those words.
Is there a word that you could put to what you were feeling at that time?
I think loss was probably the biggest one. I feel like growing up, I have actually had some form of advantage in that I felt like, at least, I always knew what I wanted to do. I remember on my last day of year 12 going up to my favourite teacher at school, Mr. Cullen, saying, "See you in 5 years, I'll be teaching here at Vermont." So that's changed. And I think that particularly when Joe passed away, that really changed, because it made me think, if you can pass in your sleep at such a young age, you question, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? And what's life really about? Or what are my values going to be? Or where do I want to go? So it definitely changes how you look at the world. But I think that once I then came up with the goal of running around Australia, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I knew my why. But ultimately I was like, let's figure this out. And I went all in. And, I think that to have a goal like that I set at 20 years old and it's shaped the last 7 years of my life, like that's very special. And a lot of people don't have that sense of purpose that came with the Run Around Australia. But at the same time, like now it's something that I'm passionate about speaking about is growing up, well, not so much growing up in the early years, but even at 20, I thought that the purpose was to run around Australia. My purpose was to run around Australia. And as you go through the years and you realize that's not the purpose at all, that's just something that I was wanting to do. The purpose was who I was becoming in that pursuit.
That's amazing. What was it like to be alone at that stage in your life?
Yeah, it was challenging. I think, I look back and I wouldn't change a thing. It's made me the person who I am. But
you must get asked that question a bit.
Yeah, I do.
Would you change anything?
Nah, I wouldn't. Like ultimately, my greatest. How would I say this? My
feet.
No, I think that the greatest things that have happened to me in life have been from my hardest moments. And another example of that is 2014. I was a bench player in our under-17s grand final. And, I mentioned that football was everything to me, like to the point where I was in the back of the classroom handballing a footy because it's what made me feel good at tough times. And it really was everything. And growing up, all I wanted to be was an athlete. And it was very clear to me that I wasn't going to play AFL. That's okay. I want to do well at a local level and, be the best player that I can be. And so to get there on grand final day, this is under 17s Vermont local level. And I'm out there and, my teammates are playing while I'm sitting on the bench. 16 out of 80 minutes I played that day. I could have looked at that moment, which I did initially. Of course, I think everyone has a right to feel hurt in that moment, but I could have stayed there and been like, fuck you, coach. And instead I was like, you know what? It was the first time in my life that I thought if my coach doesn't think I'm good enough, then I'm not good enough. Get to work. And let's just, if he thinks that, it is what it is. And let's raise my standards and get to work. So I made a commitment that, that off season or pre-season, I would lift weights, kick the footy, run more than I ever have before. 3 years later, I became a premiership captain. 7 years on from that, I've run around Australia in record time. And so I take so much from that moment in 2014. We wouldn't be here in 2024 without it.
I said to someone the other day about my upbringing, and I've had people doubt me from a young age. And I look at some people that say they get doubted and the things that they go on to achieve.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so glad I was doubted. I am so glad I was doubted.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think you were misunderstood then?
Yeah, I think so. But and of course there were people that doubted me. I mean, to run around Australia is a pipe dream until you do it, right? But at the same time, I also had so many people believe in me. And Kane Lambert is my favourite footballer. He's obviously retired now, but someone I admire so much, just, someone who didn't make it traditionally in the draft. He came in later in the I think he was 23, 24. Anyway, went on to win some flags with Tiggs and loved the way he went about it, was hungry. And Kane Lambert, I can't even remember why I brought that up. What were we talking about? Fuck.
Mate, I get in the zone during these things. I find some people ask me what
was the question you asked? Oh, yeah, okay, no, I've got it.
Oh, misunderstood.
No, the people who believe in you rather than the people who've doubted you. And it's one of the things that I heard from his retiring speech. And I'm like, that is so true. And that's how I feel. Yes, I've had some people who doubt me, but it's more been the people who've backed me and supported me. And, I was this kid who had a great reason why. I want to honor my teammate. I want to make a difference. I want to give through my passion and my strength. But ultimately, it was the people who, said, okay, I'm going to back you in and let's support you to this goal. That's why it was so special to be able to achieve it for them, not to prove the doubters wrong.
What's your relationship like with being content?
I struggle with it. Yeah. Well, I think that it comes also from realizing how short and precious life is. I want to give my all. And sometimes I think that you can go too far with that. Yeah. Like you also need to understand that life is at the same time a long game. And, I think that you've got to chase your passions, you've got to chase your strengths, but you've also got to be able to do it sustainably. you've also got to be able to make time for family and friends and people you love, because otherwise, if you're just on this mission for whatever it is, a business pursuit, an athletic pursuit, you're going to burn yourself out. And ultimately, my girlfriend and I, we watched Taylor Swift's documentary on Netflix. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, loved it. And one of the things I loved is she wins a Grammy. So she's like reached the top of the mountain, but she talks about how she had no one to call. I thought that was powerful. Like, here's this person who we all know and we all admire, and she's achieved some success that, you know, we will never achieve. And yet ultimately she was like, but I didn't really enjoy the journey because I didn't have anyone to share it with. And I thought, well, isn't that true? Like, you can be on this mission, strive to be the best you can be, chase your dreams, you know, make a difference, but also make the time for the people you love.
It's a good reminder. I saw something the other day about how short life is. That was like too much. Like you recall saying too much. It said nothing is more of a motivation than death. And it had, I think, 4,383 weeks.
Right.
And there was 4,383 boxes.
Okay.
And the person was ticking them off.
Oh.
You know? And I'm like, but that sounds like it's something that's a bit too excessive.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, like, it's healthy to not be content. I do. I think that, you know, it's a good driving force for us, and, you know, we need to tap into discipline and all the other things, of course. But at the same time, like, I think that if you're not content in your life, like, that's a good thing. It can drive you to be the person you want to be.
It was the Melbourne Marathon 5 years ago that ultimately kick-started my running journey. I ran my first marathon, and from the moment I crossed the finish line, I knew I was hooked. It's incredible what can happen when you go all in. The last 5 years I've given all to my running, and in return, running has given me more than I could ever have possibly imagined.
So I wrote that in 2022?
You must have.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true. Like, 2017 was my first marathon, Melbourne Marathon, and I went into that. It was 3 weeks after our grand final. I sort of glossed over the fact, I said earlier, we won the grand final in 2017 and I became a premiership captain. So 3 years earlier was a bench player. 3 years later was a premiership captain. That wasn't through, I was nowhere near one of the best players in our team, but my teammates voted me in as captain because I was setting the standard, be the first one on the track, last one off it, and ultimately living to a standard that was helping them level up too. And so as a team, we were strong, but through that entire year, didn't love my footy as much as I had in previous years. And that was a clear indication. Well, if you've not lost a game and you're the captain and you're eventually the one who holds up the cup with the coach, you still don't really love it, you've got to try something else. So I remember that year, and I had signed up for Melbourne Marathon a few months out. And so we were in our buy rounds, and I was doing long runs and not putting it on social media or not telling anyone because, like, I was the captain of the team, but I had this goal to run Melbourne Marathon. So I thought that this might be something that I would really love, but I didn't know until I did it, right? And I think sometimes we've just got to throw ourselves in the deep end. And I did a few runs. From what I know now as a running coach, I definitely didn't prepare like I should have. I neglected nutrition. I neglected strength training, like so many things that could have made me a better runner. But 3 weeks after our grand final, I was able to run that marathon. And yeah, as I said, when I crossed the line, I knew that it was going to be a big part of my future. But then I didn't just, talk about it. I didn't just say, okay, well, I've done this marathon. Like, yeah, it's going to be a big part of my future. I got to work, and that wasn't just through training. That was being smart, trying to find mentors, coaches, people who have walked the path before me to learn from, and really did, like as that post said, put everything into running in those 5 years and the 2 years that followed. And that's why we're here now.
You said you knew it.
Yeah.
Can you go into that a bit more? Like, what did you know about it?
It's a great question. I think just crossing the finish line, feeling the highs and lows of that first marathon, I was just like, this is it. Like, running had always been a part of my life, but more with a footy in my hand. And I think growing up, I'd always, like, if ever I felt, sad, stressed, angry, whatever it was, running was, you'd run around the block and you'd feel better. So running was always something. It had always been a part of me, but I dabbled with it. I did school cross country here or there, but it wasn't something that I was properly into. And I think I crossed the finish line and I knew. And There's only one other experience I've had where I've just truly known, and I'll get to that. But basically, 2023. So originally I set the goal to run around Australia in 2021. So I set the goal to run around it in 2018 for 2021. And obviously COVID happens. It can't happen in 21. The goal changes again. But to fast forward just quickly, 2023 I did a 200-mile race, and that's 322 Ks nonstop. I just wanted to go the distance. I didn't know if I could even run that far nonstop. I ended up winning that race. And once I won that race, I knew. Like, it was a genuine knowing, not believing anymore. It was a knowing that I can run around Australia and break this record. And that only came from 6 years, of hard work from that marathon to 2023 BVRT 200 miler. And it's a beautiful feeling when you know.
Every day, I truly believe we should all be doing something that takes us closer to achieving our dreams. This is another one of your quotes. Dug this up. It is our dreams that give us purpose and help us become the person we want to be. I've found it is often when we work towards the things we want in life that we are most likely to enjoy the present moment too. This is because we are making progress, and while we may not exactly be where we want to be, each day we are getting a little bit closer, which can only equal happiness. Your happiness is infectious and creates a ripple effect for others. Remember writing that?
I don't, but they're true words. I still feel that way.
I think it was around that time where you did that 200-mile run.
Okay. Yeah.
200 miles. Like, what are you thinking when you're, and you talk about pain cave and everything, you've referenced it a few times. What are you thinking when you did that first run and you finished? I remember you saying you were cooked. Like, I remember seeing the post when you crossed the line. You must have been exhausted.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's something that, like, I went into the 200 miler because, and I referenced before, I went on a mission to find coaches and mentors. And so early 2018, I announced the goal to run around Australia. September 2018, I meet my coach, Jace, who then helps me really solidify the goal. Okay, you want to run around Australia? Great. Well, let's set a target. So 2021, 60 Ks a day. And that's what it was going to be. And then in life, I believe that we have mentors that we've been lucky enough to meet. Like, for me, I've had mentors in Coach Jace, Samantha Gash, Dave Alley, who was a previous record holder before me, absolute champion guy, who gave me so much. Matt Daniels, who ran 50 marathons in 50 days before I did. Like, all of these people who'd shaped my journey. But one of them was David Goggins. And I haven't met Goggins. So many people love Goggins. But I truly believe in life we can have mentors that we meet and mentors that we don't meet. But, we can learn from them through their books, through their podcasts, whatever it is. They can be a mentor if they shape your journey. And so in Feb of 2023, I went to Goggins when he came to Melbourne. And I remember being there, listening to him. He was talking about how he came back from ACL surgery and went into Moab 240, which is 240 miles or 400 Ks through the desert, elevation, hot. And I'm like, if he can do that, then I can run 200 miles. Maybe that's what I'll do. Like, I'd done a couple of 24-hour runs at that point. Maybe I can do a 200 miler. Like, I won't know unless I sign up. So at Goggins, I made two decisions: sign up for a 200 miler, which I did on the drive home. And I said, I'm not going to run 80 Ks a day around Australia. I'm going to try and run 84 Ks a day. So I spoke before about Dave Alley. He ran around Australia in 2015 at an average of 79.5 K a day. Because I went to Goggins and he was like, instilled that belief again within me. No, this is not something where you just go that little bit ahead a day of 80 K a day. If you can do 84.4 a day, go for it. If you can run a double marathon, how will you feel? So that, learning from that mentor changed how I went about my run around Australia. It changed my strategy. And my goal then became, let's get to Dave's distance per day and run a park run. That extra 5K over time compounds and ultimately led me to breaking the record by 11 days. But it was something that I knew would energize me if I could hit that double marathon per day. And, you don't get to these places without learning from people. And it was, again, from David Goggins in that moment, which was really cool.
On the topic of learning from people, Jace obviously played a pretty significant part of your life.
Yeah, huge.
What are the best memories you have of him?
We went down to his beach house, Kalala Bay, and that was, a beautiful weekend. That was early 2020, I think, just spending some time together, running together. I look back and, it's a great time of my life. We also shared 2019 Bali Hope Ultra. So I mentioned I met Jace 2018 September. He said to me, "You're further along than you think." I guess by that point, I'd run the marathon in October the year before, 11 months earlier. And from that point, I'd committed hard to running, but I was still winging it, doing it myself, figuring it out. Even though I was winging it though, I'd run a 60K ultra in 2018 at the Great Ocean Road. I'd started to turn into a bit of a nutcase and would run to uni 2-3 days a week, living in Vermont, running to Fitzroy. So, it became part of my life. He said to me, "We need to change some things, but you are further along than you think. I think if we do 4 months of hard work together and proper training with some structure, making sure that we're strength training, you get your nutrition right, all of these key pillars of performance, then you can run 50 marathons in 50 days." So Jan 4 to Feb 22, that's what I did. I ran 50 marathons in 50 days to honor my teammate Joey, and that was called Jog for Joey, my first real charity campaign. But then 12 weeks after that was the Bali Hope Ultra. And Jace was like to me, "We've built huge endurance within you. Let's now focus on speed. Let's get you fast. Trust that you've got the Ks in your legs. You're going to run a great race in Bali." And I went over to Bali hoping to do well, ended up winning the Bali Hope Ultra in a great time. And I thought, this is, again, it just like you do these things, you get great results. It reinforces to you that you're on the right track. And so I could see in live time that Jace was changing my life. And to experience that was something that is so hard to put into words because, as I've mentioned earlier, all I wanted to be in life was an athlete. And I didn't make it in football how I wanted to. But all of a sudden I was seeing huge progress in running, and this guy was making me the person that I always wanted to be. And yes, I was the one making me. I was doing the work, but he was the coach guiding me. And I believe in life, doesn't matter what the goal is, whatever we're working towards, there's people who can help us, and you just need to reach out.
Jace has personally coached me for almost 2 years, and it's helped me to achieve feats that I can only dream of. He hasn't just made me a better athlete, but more importantly, a happier, healthier, and better person. Running has brought me so much in life. He's given me a new sense of purpose to help and inspire others to chase their own dreams, as well as greater self-belief and self-love.
Yeah. That's beautiful words and so true. Like, it's one of those things, like when you love someone and you love hard, there's beautiful highs and then tragic lows. And, we shared Bali Hope, as I mentioned, which was the best week. It's combining all of those things that you just read out. If anyone is thinking about the Bali Hope Ultra, it's a week where you are in Bali running 84K with like-minded people to put disadvantaged kids through school. And we shared that together. He was helping me prepare for this, what was going to be 2021 Run Around Australia. And when COVID happened, the goal changed. And it was clear that I couldn't run around Australia in 21, let alone even 22. So I was like, what can we do? And we came up with the goal together of running from Cairns to Melbourne because it was 3,600 kilometers. So that's 60 Ks a day for 60 days to raise 60K. Came up with the campaign 60 for 60 for 60 to support Make-A-Wish, and was calling the Run for Wishes. I wanted to support Make-A-Wish because that was me chasing my dream to help these sick kids directly chase and achieve what's most meaningful to them, and indirectly inspire other people watching and following along to chase and achieve what's most meaningful to them. So it was a charity very aligned to me. We obviously had to pivot on the Run Around Oz goal for now, and we set that. And then, we get to Cairns to Melbourne. I'm feeling strong. I've prepared my body over, 4.5 years at that point. And on day 7, I get the news that he passed away. And so hard still today to talk about because, I think that to experience loss through two people I love at such a young age, and obviously we all lose, grandparents and these things, and I love them too, of course, but to lose people at a young age and lose people that you don't expect, that's hard. And I think when someone has changed your life like that, And, you know, we were business partners as well as him being my coach. It's really hard. So yeah, the time following that was really challenging, and I had to grieve while running from Cairns to Melbourne. But what a great coach does is they help you believe in yourself. And what he always instilled in me is, if you think you can do more, do it. And never, you know, leave yourself or like never don't go all in. And so with that, you know, I was able to level up further, and the Cairns to Melbourne run, I ended up pushing it out to an average of 66 Ks a day and 4,000 K total. And, you know, I don't think I would have done that had Jace not instilled all that in me over the years.
I went on his Instagram page before this.
Yeah.
He seemed like a very, I'm just trying to think of the right way to describe it, but a lot of his posts were quotes.
Yeah.
And I saw one that stood out. It said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. Courage to persevere when it counts. You are powerful, beyond belief."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he brought that out of me, and like, I'm forever indebted. It's just beautiful. And, you know, I know he would be so proud of how the journey eventuated in running around Australia. And we ended up raising $177,000 for Make-A-Wish. And it's, you know, to be able to do that and not just complete the run around Oz like we originally set out at 60K a day, but to go on an average a double marathon a day for nearly 6 months straight, like, I'm sure I exceeded his expectations. And with that, I'm so proud because I couldn't have done it without him.
You spoke about the grieving process before.
Yeah.
Day 7, and I think from memory it ended up being over 60 days.
Yeah, it was 60. Yeah.
60. How many days is that? 50, whatever it is, 53. So what's going through your head during that time?
Yeah, I remember feeling like first it was like, how can I keep going? How can I do this? I think, you know, when you're grieving someone you love, that's hard, and it takes all your energy. And, you know, I was devastated, but I had to find a way. And I also knew that, you know, I was very privileged to be able to run from Cairns to Melbourne and then run around Australia. And I used that mindset to really help me. Like, I know that some people have goals and dreams and they may never get the opportunity to live them. And I don't take that for granted. So while I was out there running from Cairns to Melbourne, yes, that was hard. It was so hard. And there were many times where I was just out there by myself, just running and crying. But I knew that I had to continue, and I knew that he would have wanted that. And like, it was 60 running days, 62 days total. I did have day 30. I was near Ballina, and I flew from Ballina to Sydney to go to his memorial. And I could do that. It wasn't a record attempt or anything like that with Cairns to Melbourne. And I knew that I needed to do that to honour him. When I got back to Casino, which was near Ballina where I was talking about, and continued running, I felt like I'd said goodbye. And as hard as that was, I felt like that second half, if you like, when I returned to run from Cairns to Melbourne, when I returned back to Casino to continue, I was performing a lot better. And it was like, okay, now, like, let's just do this. Let's enjoy it. Let's be the person you are. And, you know, really try and like do it as much as you can with a smile on your face, because he's not going to want you to be running and crying down the highway. He's going to want you to love every moment and try and really try and focus hard on that. And so it was something that, yeah, that second half of the run, I had 70K days, 80K days. I think my biggest was 85. And again, you do all of these things and it builds belief. And once I got to the other side of Cairns to Melbourne and finished in Melbourne, I knew that, okay, 66K a day, it was hard. But I was back in the gym 48 hours after running from Cairns to Melbourne. I thought, well, you know, maybe I don't have to make a decision right now, but maybe if I can put together another, you know, solid 2 years of training, then if I did the run around Oz in 2024, maybe the record is possible. And so I got working on my plan and what I wanted to achieve. And November 2022 came out and re-announced to the world that I was going to run around Australia, but this time go for the world record.
Was giving up an option during that run?
Of Cairns to Melbourne? No, definitely not. It was, you know, I think when you have such a deep purpose in wanting to honor people you love, it's huge. And like, it was never an option.
We can do incredible things when there's something greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
I think you wrote that as well.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Well, it's so true. Like it helps you tap into a version of yourself that I don't think you even realize that you have within.
Are you still doing that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
so?
it's a challenging period to be in right now. I'm sure we'll go into it post the run around Australia. But throughout the run, for example, like if we fast forward to the run around Australia, to wake up every single morning off very little sleep and rolling around in pain. You wake up, it's 5 a.m. You're out running by 5:30, 5:45 a.m. and you're running anywhere till 8 o'clock at night. When you're laying there in bed, if you don't have strong, deep reasons why, you can't get up and do that every single day, especially when you're already in pain from when you start. And there were days where I would start and, I'd chat to the camera and I'd say, hey, we're here at the finish line of day 132, starting day 133, giddy up. And I take off and within a minute I'm throwing up because my body is so exhausted. How do you keep pushing unless you have deep, deep reasons why? And, it's something I actually thought about on the way here, driving here today to have this chat, is I think that, it's such a unique record in running around Australia. Like, of course, I'm grateful I've been able to do that, but other people can't take 6 months off their work, their lives from their partners. It's a big thing. And so some people may view this as, he's cherry picked a record, but the record wasn't even a part of my original plan. So when you have a goal that inspires you so much because it's making you the person that you've always wanted to be, it's helping you, live your purpose and in that you're chasing a dream and you're helping others chase theirs. It's adventure. It's all of these things into one and it's honoring people you love. Nothing was going to stop me.
Do you think you're the person you want to be yet?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
Yeah, I do. And I think that pursuit will never end. I think that it's a decision you have to make every single day. Like, I want to live by my values. So what does that mean? It's making time for training. Maybe it's drinking heaps normals rather than beers and writing myself off. Whatever it is, there are decisions that we can make to be the person that we want to be. But I think that, yes, it takes work. Like, I think if you have to get to a certain point, a certain achievement, whether that be, running around Australia or whether that be, a certain height in business, and you're only, saying you're the person that you want to be once you reach that, that's like saying, I'll be happy when. Like, I'm very conscious of that and I'm proud of the person that I am, but that doesn't mean that I'm complacent. I want to continue to grow and be the person that I want to be.
I'm going to read out the post from what I think it was day 7 of the run when you found out that Jason passed away.
Yep.
Today was one of the hardest days of my life. Last night I heard the news that my running coach, my business partner, and one of my best mates passed away in his sleep on Friday night. 4 years ago I met Jason and we bonded instantly. He changed my life. There are very few people you can say have done that, but Jace truly changed mine. He built me into an athlete and a person I'm proud of, and helped me achieve things that I could only dream of. Jace gave his entire heart to everyone he met, and he always embodied love and strength, despite going through tough times. This photo was the very first moment we met in person. He had coached me for months to prepare me to run for 50 marathons in 50 consecutive days, and because he lived in Sydney, it was the first time we actually met. I'm so grateful for the person who captured this moment. It's hard enough grieving the loss of a loved one, but adding 60 kilometres of running on top of that each day is emotionally draining. I'm hurting right now, but I'll finish what I started for sick kids and their families, because I know Jace would want that. We started this journey together and we will finish it together. I know you'll be running with me every step of the way. I'm going to get this one done, Coach. I love you.
Yeah. Huge.
We started this journey together and we'll finish it together.
We did.
Do you think the journey's still going though?
It is. Like, with the run around Australia or the run for wishes, obviously that journey is done. And that's the goal we set out to achieve in obviously 2018. But the journey to continue to be the best athlete that I can be, to help other people and inspire other people to go and chase their dreams, of course that's not done. So I guess it's a couple of different ways of looking at it. I really smile when I hear those words because I firstly think about the goal itself to run around Australia, and we did it, and I think that there's a lot of challenges when you do something like that, the build up to the run itself, but to get to the other side and know that you did it and know that you couldn't have done anything more. Like, I drained the tank every single day. And it's something that, 2022, if I'm to be truly honest, as hard as that was running the 60K a day and grieving Jace, there were some days where I felt like, why am I spraying the ground so early? And it was after the run where I was reflecting on the run and I was like, well, in the end, you average 66 Ks a day. Yes, a lot of the days you push yourself to the absolute limit, but there were some days, if you're really honest with yourself, that you sprayed the ground and you finished before you could. So if you put together another 2 years of hard work and training and you empty the tank every single day and running around Australia, then you can do this. And it was that commitment to myself of, best I can be. I've got 2 tattoos on each forearm, best I can be, and then coach with a love heart. And my best I can be is seeing that day through every single day. Coming back to the perspective I had before of like understanding and respecting that I am out here living a dream that I've worked so hard to achieving, but I don't take that for granted, that I'm getting 6 months to be able to run. And so therefore, while I'm out here, so that I don't look back on the run around Australia and think I sprayed the ground early, I can't think that now, because I literally gave my all every single day, which is why we got the result that we did. And that doesn't happen unless you have coaches and mentors like Jace.
What do you think the teenager who ran his first Melbourne Marathon, looking at yourself now, would say?
I think he would just be like, who are you? Like, how is that? How did you do that? How is that possible? And I mentioned earlier Tony Robbins. I'm going to go back to that because there's a key part of my story here. At Tony Robbins, which was March 2017, so 6 months before my Melbourne Marathon, he shared the story of Stu Middleman, who ran 85K a day across America, 56 days in a row. Being a footballer at the time, not a runner, I was sitting there thinking, who is this predisposed genetic freak? That is not possible. Good on him, but we can't do that as everyday human beings. So to then fast forward 6 months, run my first marathon. I finished that marathon. I was so proud. I knew that, as I said, from that point, I was all in with running. But I reflected back on Stu and thought one marathon was hard. How did he do 2 per day for 56 days? I made running my world. I started to listen to running podcasts, started to watch running videos every spare minute that I had when I wasn't working as a bartender or at uni and studying. And it's what I had to do. So from there, I started to research. I was listening to the Rich Roll podcast. I found a girl called Samantha Gash who ran across India for World Vision. So here was someone who'd run across a continent. She'd, run across a country. She'd done something amazing. She'd made a difference for charity, and it was so aligned with what I wanted to do that I was like, I can learn from her. I started to make it my world, and we don't get there overnight, but I knew that if I could find the right mentors and I set the goal for years in advance, then maybe I could do it too. So I thought back to Stu Middleman. Has anyone ever run around or across Australia? Found out about a few people that have. Found out about a couple in their 60s, Jeanette and Alan, who ran a marathon a day every day for 366 days back in 2013. And I thought, if they could run around Australia a marathon a day and they're in their 60s, with great respect to Jeanette and Alan, if they can do that in their 60s, then I can do this too. If I put the years in, if I respect the time that it's going to take, if I find the coaches and mentors to shape my journey. And so I think if we talk about that moment, 2017, the true answer would be like, who are you and how did you do that? But understanding that it's just been little bit by bit, by bit by bit, and all of that compounds so well. And, one mentor connected me to the next one who connected me to the next one. And that's why I was able to do what I did.
Stacking the proof.
Yeah.
Have you heard that quote before? What is it? Building a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say
you are. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's Alex Hormozy.
Yeah. I love how you said putting the years in.
Yeah.
I mean, for most people, that just... And it's probably a good reminder for anyone that is because I've had so many times where with what I'm doing, I'm like, why aren't I like on a world platform yet?
Yeah.
And then I look at it and I'm like, I didn't have anything 12 months ago. You know?
So true. I think Tony Robbins talks about people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, but underestimate what they can achieve in a decade. If you think about my journey, it was 2017 that I ran my first marathon and 2024 that I ran around Australia. So that's 7 years, 6.5 years from when I set the goal in early 2018. We need to give it time. And I'm human. I'm like everyone else. I get caught up thinking I'm not where I want to be in my business yet, whether with run coaching or speaking. I want to be speaking all around the world and inspiring people to chase their dreams. And, you know, now on the back of the run, obviously Giddy Up was my mantra. That's come from another mentor of mine. So Beardy, one of my mentors for years, he's in his 40s. He was someone who's a great dad. He's got, you know, multiple children. He's a teacher. He's someone I look up to a lot. He's incredibly fit. He's such a role model for me. And I could be like, hey, Beardy, just text him now. You want to meet me tomorrow morning, 5 a.m., Dandenong Ranges for a 30K run. And all I would get back is Giddy Up Belly. And I knew that, you know, if Beardy's saying this, and I love Beardy, Giddy Up, that's cool. That's what I want to be. And so Giddy Up was a mantra. Giddy Up was more than, you know, those words to pump me up. Giddy Up was something that we had fun with along the way, running around Australia. It inspired me. It helped me. It's almost like how they, you know, people say that they have their like superhero, or like Goggins says there's a difference between David Goggins and Goggins. For me, this was helping me tap into that person. And so now on the speaking circuit, my message is giddy up and level up your life. And, you know, I giddied up. I raised my standards in 2014 when my coach put me on the bench to then run around Australia in 2024. You know, I've had to constantly raise my standards and giddy up and level up along the way. And so I'm no different to anyone. I think just like yourself, you know, I'd love to be further along, but we are where we are for a reason. And just like I've achieved great success in running around Australia, what if I can put the same 7 years into my speaking and run coaching? Where can we be then?
One thing that's helped me with my running journey is thinking, what if I can? Some people have said to me, you can't run 50 marathons in 50 days. You haven't been a runner for long enough and it's just not possible. I shut it out and would just think, well, they couldn't because they think they can't, but what if I can? Having a what if mentality changes everything. It helps you believe you can achieve things you dream, even if they are scary, and challenge every part of you.
Yeah. What if mentality is from David Goggins as well. You know, I think, like, I'm very honest with the people I've learned from. I am not trying to claim or say that I've invented these things. I even share that Giddy Up came from Beardy. What if came from Goggins. I've been on a mission to find people who can help. And I think that so often in life, people are scared to ask for help. But what I've found from my experience is if you reach out to someone who's achieved what you want to achieve, then often they will help you. And you just have to put yourself out there because, you know, you have to remember that this person, yes, they achieved something great, but they had help and support and guidance to get to that area as well from a mentor who shaped their journey. So if they can now be someone who helps you and be a mentor to that next person, you know, often they want to help.
You're speaking with almost like someone that's had the reps. Would you say that is accurate?
Yeah.
What's another story or factor that makes you think that? That you're, you know, because like what I like listening to people that have had the reps and had the experience. Mm-hmm. And it's an obvious question. I mean, you've done things that are like amazing, and it sounds like it's almost built like a massive confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
You say that is accurate?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, one of those posts that you referenced before was where I spoke about Jason helped me bring out the person that I always wanted to be, and he's built belief within me. And that's true. Like, you have to do the reps. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's business or athletic or any other endeavor, it's reps. And, you know, I think that, like, growing up, you referenced that quote that I said all those years ago. I was like that. I did think about, you know, why are my mates like that? They've got, you know, this going for them, or why does this person have that and I don't have this? And it was very easy to be in that victim mentality, and it just doesn't serve you. Like, I think it gets to a point when you're like, okay, if this has happened and this hurts, I have to do something about it. No one's coming to save me. And I love footy so much. Footy was such a big part of my life that when I wasn't out there playing in the grand final, that cut me deep. And I was like, I'm going to use this to fuel me. And I think that it's fine to hurt. Like, I hurt, we all hurt. We need to feel that, but don't stay there. Don't live there. Do something about it.
What's fueling you at the moment?
What's fueling me at the moment is trying to get back to health with my foot, but no, also just trying to move forward in these other areas of my life. Like, I spoke about how I've got great goals in speaking, great goals in run coaching, and I'm proud of the Run Around Australia. It's been a journey that I would never change, but at the same time, everything in life has a cost, and this has been my number one priority outside of obviously my family for the last 6-7 years. So, I've been working as a personal trainer, I've been working as a bartender, little jobs here or there, because it was to support myself while I was training for this goal. And that's an outrageous thing to do when I think that I'm now 27. I saw a post the other day on social media of one of my good mates, his youngest sister has graduated university, and I felt so old. And I'm not where I want to be yet with my career. But coming back to what you said earlier, I'm still proud of the person I am. Just because I'm not there yet doesn't mean that I'm not going to get there. And I think that you have to put yourself around, or put yourself in the right environment, but you have to try and find these mentors who can help you believe that, you really are on the right track. You have to give it time. Like, now I'm consuming a lot of Gary Vee content because it's more business and entrepreneur related. You're only 27. Like, chill out. Like, there's time. Like, you got to respect that journey, because if someone else is further along as a speaker, as a run coach, they've done the reps of 10 years. And I just need to respect that, because that's the same advice that I give to someone else who wants to do a big charity run or a big expedition off a year of training. No, give it 6.
Do you think you could do that run again?
Yeah.
The Run Around Australia?
I would love to.
Really?
I would do it again in a heartbeat, but I won't do it again because it takes so much away. Like, I just spoke about your sacrifices. I didn't have a career for 6 months. I couldn't earn an income. I couldn't be with my partner, Chloe. And, that was hard. She was also sick through some of that period of the run as well. It's a huge sacrifice to do something like this. And yes, it's a privilege, but at the same time, it's a big thing. So I would love to do something similar. I think for me, if I ever do a run on the road, multi-day expedition like that again, I'd love to run across Australia. I certainly haven't set that goal, but I just think that by the time I got to Perth, I'd already run for 121 days. So my body was pretty cooked, and I started to decline as I ran across Australia. It was beautiful. I love the Nullarbor, but from Perth to Melbourne, I felt like, it was so much harder. What was, anywhere from 12 and a half to 13 hour days for 88K became 14 and a half hour days for 80K. My body really started to decline and struggle. And with that, I'm someone who, would love to go back and have even stronger running memories across Australia. But to do the whole thing again, if I could, if there was no other factors of the logistics of asking people to take time away from work and funding the run with sponsorship and all of that, it's something that, yeah, if it was all sorted, taken care of, would love to, but it won't actually happen again.
I want to dive deep into the run.
Yeah.
But I'd love to do it with Mitch here, to be honest.
Yeah, cool.
I reckon we take a pause, and it's just about 8:30. So for context, we've got, you can give the context for what's about to happen.
Yeah. So I've done a couple of podcasts since the run, and I think that it's important to have a perspective from a crew member. Obviously, you're mates with Mitch, and this is something that I think would be good for people to hear, because Mitch was someone who gave up about 40 days of his life away from his partner, away from his work, to support me and support my dream. And that is something where, it's so beautiful, and I couldn't have done it without a team. It was a team that ran around Australia. Yes, I was the runner, but I always say to people, the most common question I get asked is it more physical or is it more mental? And I say it's physical, mental, and logistical, because I couldn't have done it without my team. And I think it's beautiful when people buy into your vision because they believe in it and they want to make a difference too. So, yeah, it'd be cool to hear from Mitchie.
I don't think I ever saw because I obviously looked at the posts in the lead up to finishing. There was never I. It was always we.
Yeah.
And that's...
I remember actually one day I said, I said on my story, we're 20Ks in, and someone's messaged me, we, ? And I was just looked at it like, oh yeah, like I understand how that might be interpreted. Yes, I'm running. I'm the sole runner. I had crew jump in at times to run next to me. I ran those Ks per day, but it was a collective effort.
I reckon we'll pause it here and we'll get the big fella in. I was thinking we start this section off with... Because we had the chat before about the actual run itself. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to try and remember someone else butchered it. But did you want to provide perhaps some context on the actual metrics behind the run?
Sure.
Yeah. And do you want to give an intro? So you were one of the crew members as well that helped.
Yeah. You first or me?
Right,
I reckon you go first.
Yeah. I'm Mitch Viney. I've jumped in on the crew on what day was it? 95.
Yeah.
Sean is my run coach. Asked me a couple of months beforehand if I was keen to jump on board, which I was keen at the start. But then obviously I had to check with the wife and all that because it was going to be I think it was at the start it was only going to be 4 weeks. On the road, but ended up taking another week at the end.
So it was 13,383 kilometres, I think it was the record, yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that the run around Australia can be a little bit confusing to people because the world record is broken at 13,383K, but I was in a town called Millicent, South Australia, near the border of South Australia and Victoria. I hadn't finished my loop from where I started at the MCG, but the reason the record is broken there to become the fastest person to run around Australia is Ron Grant was the first person to run around Australia back in 1983, and his distance was 13,383 Ks. Since then, 40 years have gone by. Some roads have changed, some road laws have changed. As much as you try and run the exact same, it is pretty much impossible to run the exact same. So therefore, because of that, whoever's become after Ron Grant, which I know of Pat Farmer, then Dave Alley and myself, then that's been the record-breaking point is 13,383. And so, I was able to do that in 158 days. But my journey to the MCG ended up being 13,964K. And that was another week on that. So that was on the 166th day.
Mm. I'm still wrapping my head around what this freak completed. 174 days on the road, 165 days to complete the lap around Australia and setting a new world record. I spent 40 days on the road, 35 down the West Coast and 5 days in Tassie. Seeing the raw emotions throughout those days, the blood, sweat and spews is something that I could now kick my feet up and look back on and laugh. Job finished, or at least for now. Talk to me about what it was like when you started, like what you had almost walked into.
Well, we didn't. Yeah, obviously, I've never crewed before. I've obviously had people crew for me, so I kind of had an idea of what I was going to go there and do, and it was we walked ourselves into. There was three of us that got there in Broome, kind of pretty fresh. So we just walked in, and it was felt like that first week we got hit with so many obstacles, but I don't know, we just kind of made things work. Try not letting Sean know until like the end of the day or a couple of days later.
What were the obstacles?
One of the motorhomes.
Day 95.
Yeah, one of the motorhomes. That's when it started to actually, the motorhome started playing up. So it actually, didn't start. So
okay.
There's a few problems with that. Eventually, later on down the track, that was gone for what?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, we had to basically what happened was day 95, as I said, the motorhome didn't start, but it was like I was running on the side of the A1. So you can imagine you've got road trains, you've got cars. These are big vehicles and scary. And the crew ultimately tried to always pull over as far to the left as they could and pull over when it was safe in stopping bays and stuff. But sometimes that didn't line up with where I was finishing or whatever it may be. And I'd finished on day 95. I remember I just hit 8,000 Ks. We were like all stoked, celebrating as a crew, coming up with another video, job's not finished. And then we go to get back in the motorhome and it won't start. And we're not far off that white line, which is terrifying. It's dark. It's dark and you've got road trains coming. And, we are like just on the side that ultimately a road train could come through us and come through the van. So we couldn't be in the van. We had to figure out what to do. And that was one of the obstacles along the way. But like, of course, you do any sort of adventure around Australia, even driving for a holiday for 6 months, you run into mechanical issues. And this is something we had to deal with in live time.
You sound like you have a unique understanding of where you were at each day.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It's pretty freakish, actually.
I have a good understanding. Like, I don't remember now, what Ks I hit on what day. There's some days that stand out that I definitely remember because they were so hard that, you couldn't forget that. But I always remember, like if I was, so between, day 95 and 122 was from Broome to Perth. Or I remember that I hit Townsville on day 42 and then Mount Isa was about day 50. So I always know where I was. And that's pretty cool to think back on the journey because like I mentioned before about my foot injury. Now I've got something called Freiberg's, which is where the head of the metatarsal bone flattens due to repeated trauma from insufficient blood to the bone. I first felt that pain just after Mount Isa. I was still in Queensland. And that's crazy to think that I ran another, if you include Tasmania and say that was day 50, another 124 days on top, just smashing my body that was already pretty cooked. But
I reckon that's the spot I kept pushing when I was putting on your socks.
Yeah. But when you come back to that, that strong reasons why, it just drives you. And then a big part of that, which, we didn't mention earlier, but you have to have fun along the way. And that's where the crew really like brought into that and made sure that I was having a laugh.
Are you happy?
Yeah, it was the best.
No, was that the videos you were doing? You were asking each other, are you happy or are you done or something? What was it? Is that what you were asking? Are you happy? Yeah, that's what I was asking.
You happy or you're not happy? I'm like, mate, job's not finished.
Did that make it easier, that humour, I guess?
It did, yeah. You have to have a laugh or otherwise, like, I remember day 5 thinking, I'm like I was talking to Chloe and I said to her, I'm going to post like today that the Kobe Bryant Little Real job's not finished. And she's like, of course it's not finished. You have 9,000 K to go. I'm like, oh, don't say that. But you need these little things. Like I think for us celebrating every milestone, every 1,000 K, it was really important.
I think before I even come in, like I sat down and kind of like just had a bit of time by myself and I kind of just said, like, it's not about me or, anything like that. I'm going there for Sean to make him basically, make it as easy as possible for him to kind of, get up in the morning, get to lunch and get through that day. That's why I brought, like 5 different costumes, to bring out on, certain days. They weren't set days, but, days when he was we could tell he was a bit flat or, just to, bring a smile on his face, get his mind off what he's actually doing.
That was my next question. Were there times where it was hard to make him laugh?
Honestly, I've never met someone doing something so crazy back to back, day on day. And, if you came out to him in the middle of where we were and coming down the West Coast, he would get you to run with him and he would talk with you the whole time. Like he had so much time and a smile on his face for anyone that kind of was there. I don't know. And so, he was thankful, you'd say thank you. Like he didn't have to, it didn't worry me whether he did or didn't. But like, he was always, thanks team, off you'd go. So yeah.
What do you put that down to?
Oh, I think it's like the values of who you want to be. And I knew that, I was running for 12 and a half to 14 and a half hours a day, but the crew days are longer because ultimately, we had logistics in place that one would go ahead and start cooking dinner and all of that. But ultimately, they've still got to pack up, they've got to clean up, they've got to set up for the next day. Like I was getting little sleep, but I was getting more sleep than crew, and I was aware of that. So, these were volunteers. They're out giving up their time away from their work and partners, and I didn't take that for granted. So that's what really, as hard as it was, we tried to find humor in it. Like Sean Mitchie will tell you about the day where I think it was the first spew that he saw. I'd started, and it was early in the morning, and I'm just like projectile spewing, and it's 6 a.m. The sun's coming up. And I'm like,
it's legit
and I'm just like, oh, it's a pretty sunrise. Wipe off the baby wipe and continue going. And they're just laughing at like how I had that perspective, but I had to, I had to come up with all of these things to focus on. This hurts right now. I'm vomiting violently. Oh, that's a good looking sunrise. Let's focus on that. Or, the biggest thing, I haven't mentioned it yet, but the biggest thing that I always focus on every single day was I'm choosing to hurt. And, I was choosing to hurt. I was choosing to do something that I loved that involved significant discomfort for these sick kids who weren't choosing to hurt and who were hurting more. And if you have that perspective, that when you meet, wish kids along the way, and I met a young girl called Elsie in WA, came out and her dad, James, was amazing, supported the run, ran 16K with me. You hear stories of a young girl who's, throwing up from leukemia. Well, that is unbelievable fuel. I was never going to stop.
I'm going to read out 3 things. And so what day did you start again?
Was it 95?
95.
Yeah, we got there on 94 and then we had the new crew roll in and then transition.
This run has allowed me to experience the true highs and lows of ultra running. Yesterday morning, I woke up 5 minutes before my alarm, so excited to get out of bed and run on day 102. Today, I was in such a deep sleep, I slept through my alarm and had to be awakened by the crew. I ride the highs of feeling light, of feeling amazingly strong and conditioned from consecutive months of running ultra marathons. And then come the lows. I push through what sometimes feels like never-ending nausea and extreme fatigue. I find myself having to grind it out for entire days, willing myself to get to the end. I said, I didn't even finish off what I was saying before. I wanted to read 3 quotes and talk about both of your perspective and memory from when that was written. And from your perspective, what do you think, the highs and the lows and the never-ending nausea and the extreme fatigue, is that something that stands out?
The being nauseous and the fatigue, definitely. Yeah. I think there was a stage there where you were saying, you haven't been sick for a while. And then it was like every day for like the next...
Don't jinx yourself. I think there was a period where I'd been over 10 days and I hadn't spewed and I was like, this is good. And then it was multiple times a day, every day. Yeah.
And it was just like, you could just see that he was uncomfortable, from when we first kind of kicked off. So, just his body language sometimes, you could tell that he was uncomfortable or after he ate or, drank, you could just see that his body was struggling to, digest it or get it down.
Was it hard to push him during those times or did you have to push him?
We did, but I feel like he had a bit of drive himself to just get up and let's keep moving and whatever 500 meters brings down the track, which sometimes
I think I knew as well from Cairns to Melbourne where I didn't get my nutrition right and I lost a lot of weight. I think I lost about 8 kilos through that run and I felt it. Like if you're not eating enough, obviously the output is so high that you have to get the energy back in that you just feel terrible. You're exposing yourself to greater risk of illness and injury. Like you need that energy back in. And so it was hard. And I have no doubt that led to more of the spewing is trying to eat so much and continue running. But if I didn't get those calories in, I couldn't continue to show up every day. So it was just part of it.
Were you trying to portray on social media the realness of it all?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think you did that well.
Definitely.
What was it like to witness all of that for you?
I don't know. Some days it was honestly like can you keep doing this? Like I'm a medical professional, but it's not normal.
Yeah. What was the first sign of you thinking that? Do you think? Can you remember?
Just I don't know. Just when he's like on hands and knees, like proper like chundering, and it's like his body's, I don't know, like he's dry reaching, nothing's coming up.
Yeah.
And then he's just kind of gets up and keeps running, and you're kind of like, all right, well, are we in a position where we say, all right, Shawnee, like that's enough kind of thing. But then, by the next pit stop, he was kind of sweet. Like he's like,
better spirits.
I'm all good.
I think that's ultra running. Like it's highs and lows constantly. And it's also what I love about ultra running is problem solving, like life. You are hit with a problem, and that might be that you're throwing up, and then you have to try and find a way to get over that. So you change your nutrition and hydration. It might be that you're having an issue with your foot or an issue with your knee or your hip. What do you do? And so we didn't have specialists on the road. I didn't have physios. I didn't have podiatrists. We had to try and call experts back home. And, I had mates like Mitchie strapping my feet and rubbing my feet. He became Mitch Loves Feet because we were trying to figure it out as we went, So I think it's just like, okay, this is the problem. Now what do we do about that? And that was just constant. That never ended, But it was cool because we were all working towards that same purpose and went from there.
I love ultra running so much. The biggest reason is because it reminds me so much of life. 1 minute you feel amazing, like you're running on top of the world, and the next minute you feel exhausted, hot and sore. There are good days and there are bad days, but it's all about how you respond to them.
Yeah.
Good days and bad days. During that 102, like day 102, and you talked about, because from what I spoke about to you earlier, it sounds like that was the lead up to a pretty rough week.
Yeah, I think, my worst week, when it really hit me was when I left Perth. So day 125, I remember, was the first day that I didn't hit 80Ks. I mentioned earlier how the goal when I went to Goggins changed to be from 80K day to 84K day, but I still had this in my mind, no matter what, every single day you have to hit 80, because some days I was doing 88 and that would, bump that average up. So average was 84, but no matter what, every day you hit 80, you find a way. And so on day 125, I couldn't hit 80. My body was just completely done. And that was really hard. What was taking in the same time that, some days I'd run 84 or 88, I ran 70K that day. And the crew and we had to make a decision that, well, we're going to be out here to nearly midnight. Like, you just have to go get some more sleep and come back better.
What was it like seeing him push through that?
You could definitely see that he was, I don't know, he didn't want to finish at that. Like, he wanted to keep going, but it was more, get him right. We didn't want to be out there too long tonight and then sacrifice tomorrow.
Well, you're playing with fire, right? Like, we go too hard and then the next day might not have been able to go at all.
Yeah. And
it's something that we had to constantly weigh up. Where is that red line? Because you can go over that red line.
Were you... Shame's not the right word, but perhaps it is, when you didn't hit?
No, there was no shame, but it was just hurt because I wanted it so bad. I remember and we're going to have a documentary come out of this run one day. But I remember just chatting to Kieran. He's like to me, you're not going to want to do this right now, but this is the time where you need to talk about how this feels to not hit 80K a day when this is the goal that you had. And I had to remind myself that 80K a day, that was part of the journey, but it wasn't the be all end all. The goal was being out there to be able to run, to make a difference, to become the fastest person to run around Australia and change the kids' lives. So 80K a day formed part of that plan. But if you didn't hit 80K a day, like, get over it. You have to be strong so that you can go again the next day. And it was challenging because it wasn't how I envisioned it would go. I truly believed that I could run 80K every single day, but the body was keeping tabs from what I was doing every single day. It just said, not today, mate. Bad luck.
You talked about him dry reaching on the ground. Like, would that be in that week, did it happen a lot?
Yeah. So
how many times a day do you reckon?
Every day was kind of different, but on a bad day, it could be like, for most of the day, like, it wasn't just like he'd spew and then run and then it would be sweet. Like, he'd be pretty sick all day.
What were you feeling during those moments?
Oh, it was awful. Like, nausea was... So people often say to me, but like, you ran around Australia, you didn't really have any bad injuries. I'm like, yeah, because I prepared for 6 years. I'd done my homework, but nausea was something that I could not prepare for. It was something that, you need significant recovery from one ultra, let alone one every day for nearly 6 months. And so the nausea was my body just trying to say, stop, mate. And it was like, I was violently spewing. I was on all fours. Well, I remember that on day 10 for the first time, it was the first time I ever had this experience where I was on all fours, spewing with blood pouring out of my nose at the same time. It was a real sight. And I was just like, this is another level. I've never seen that from anyone else, and I've never felt that within myself. And I was like, this is going to be really hard, but you have to just embrace it, because again, it's like, remember your reasons why, and it fueled me and kept me going.
Is that video that just went to the moon?
No, that was
a drip.
Yeah, that was just in Darwin, just another hot day, just blood pouring out my nose. I had a lot of blood noses in Queensland, Northern Territory, and the Pilbara, because it was just so hot. I'm running on 35-degree days, but the heat coming off the tarmac as well. If you think about it, I'm on the road all day. The heat's coming through my body, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So I'd run and have my little pit stops with the crew every 8K. But at the same time, I'm out there all day, and the body just had to try and deal with it.
Is there a memory that stands out for you?
For me, while I was crewing, or
Yeah.
Well, Mitch actually got sick along the way as well on the run.
me?
Yeah, you got sick.
Yeah, I did. What was that like?
Day,
98 or 97?
3 days in.
Yeah, I got Sean. Sean's asked me if I was feeling well. I was kind of like, I thought I felt well, but turns out I had Zachlys.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, like you actually look like you got a bit of it now.
Really?
Yeah.
What is it?
Turn to the side a bit. Yeah, you do.
Really? What is it?
It's when your face looks exactly like your butt.
Far out. You got me good.
I wasn't going to go through with it.
Tell me about this.
This is the sort of shit we had to do on the run. So it's like,
I love it.
It's like 6 a.m. one morning. Mitch has been there for 2 or 3 days, and I look at him. I'm like, Mitch, you all right? He's like, me? I'm all right. Are you all right? I'm like, you don't look too
I was kind of
well.
like thinking to myself, like, do I look all right? Like,
I'm like, you don't look too well. He's like, I feel all right. I'm like, nah, it looks like you have Zachlys. And he's like, what's Zachlys? I'm like, Zachlys disease. Well, your face looks exactly like your butt, and got him. And then for the rest of the run, like that was the rule. If you get Zachlys, you have to pass it on.
So you've got to pass it on, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you've just like all your audience has just heard that
I've
joke.
witnessed it,
and hopefully they can pass it on. And here we go. But yeah, I definitely didn't create Zachlys. I'm not trying to claim that, but yeah, I got Zachlys one day and had to continue to pass it on. And it's just what it is. So yeah, Mitchie was unfortunately unwell at
that time. That's so good. You got me good there, boys.
You'd have been confused because he's like looking at me like, oh wait, I was unwell. Oh yeah,
yeah. Well, I felt it there as well. I was like, what am I doing wrong? You knew it was coming.
Yeah, well. See, I was looking away.
He tried getting a few people after he got me, and like he just couldn't get it. He just started laughing.
Yeah. He can't give it away. So I'm like looking away here, like I'm just trying to get Mitch to deliver it.
Yeah.
No, we got there.
Was that something that was not reinforced, but like the humorous side of it was just critical? Did you see it as critical?
If you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Okay.
And it was so hard. Like the journey, like I loved the journey. And as I said, I would do it again in a heartbeat, but it was so hard. If you're feeling nauseous every single day, that's really tough. Like I think in 166 days on the mainland, I would have thrown up 130 days. That's so fucking hard. But again, it was just like when the crew were buying into the mission and they're having a laugh and Mitchie's running next to me in a flamingo suit, or I'm hitting him with Zachlys, or Mally's dressed up as a horse, whatever it was, like we were just laughing, and it's what made us, all of us, have a great time out there.
You spoke about the hallucination, like, am I hallucinating? Is Mitch a flamingo?
Nah, that was a joke.
I know that was a joke. Definitely.
Yeah,
I could tell.
Yeah.
Were there days though?
No, to be honest, no. Like I've hallucinated in the past. I've hallucinated in a 200 miler. That's different. That was 53 hours of nonstop running.
Yeah, of course.
And when in that race, I saw some bunny rabbits. There were bunny rabbits out there. I saw them in the top of the trees. Well, the bunny rabbits weren't at the top of the trees. And I saw a couch in the middle of the trails, which as I got closer to it, it was actually a tree. So, yeah, I've had that in the past. But on this time, I think, like, yes, it's hard. What I was doing every day was hard, but there is rest. You know, there wasn't just like, I was having sleep at night, but also if I needed to, I could have a 5-minute nap, 10-minute nap, get back out there. And from Perth to Melbourne more so, I was crashing hard. And I'd run 40K and just like come into the crew, couldn't say a word, have to sleep. They'd say 5 minutes later, get up, and off I'd go again.
What would you think from both of you, the most challenging part of that? The whole thing, and then what was the most challenging thing that you witnessed? From your perspective, what do you think was the most challenging thing?
We should just Sean running, or
just what you were witnessing. Like, what from your opinion, what do you think was the most challenging thing for him?
I think obviously back to the being nauseous, and just even like just thinking about it now, like just your guts are crook, like. I don't know, for me, that feeling's like that crampy kind of, and then he's running with it. So, like, I just feel like that's just, I don't know, that's something different to be able to kind of, back it up day to day, like not knowing when you're going to start to feel sick or if you're going to feel sick kind of thing. And obviously then once that does happen, have to kind of adapt to that feeling to kind of keep pushing through.
Did it feel never ending?
Yeah, it did. And it became the norm. Like, it was something where I had to get used to feeling sick. It was just part of my day-to-day. And that's a hard reality, but it is what it is. And, I think that, again, I had to try and tap into the mindset of, like, this is really hard, but I'm also, at least I'm not having other issues with my body. I don't have severe knee pain that's blown up. Like, I had some foot pain, but we were able to sort of mitigate that with strapping. And I was managing everything else okay, that I was like, okay, well, this is what you've got to deal with now as like your hardest physical challenge. That's okay. And there were other things in the background, like, I think when you're running around Australia, like it's big stress in that you're away from your loved ones. I was away from Chloe. I was away from family. I wasn't working. Like, there's things that happened in the background as well that, were challenging through the run around Australia. But at the same time, like, from what we could control as a team, like, we nailed it. And I'm so proud of that because we were a small team. Whether it was the guys and girls who were with me on the road, whether it was Chloe helping with me with social media, whether it was the people in the background, like one of my mates, Zach, who helped get the permits. Like, people don't realise to run around Australia, you've got to get permits from Vic roads and New South Wales roads and so on, police permits. There's a lot that goes into it. And as a small team, I couldn't be prouder.
I think the most, not the craziest, but the most eye-opening aspect for me is just how long it was.
Yeah.
And like, I can imagine how excited you were taking off from Melbourne.
Yeah.
And it's almost like in everything you do, the highs and the lows, you've reinforced that. I mean, obviously taking off is a high. A week later, there's not as much, not as many people.
40K later.
Oh, mate. Yeah. Like 7 weeks before the run, I had a tibia stress fracture. Like, how do you get up and run around Oz 7 weeks after that? And that was such a hard time because here I was trying to get sponsorship from the run, trying to find businesses to believe in the vision, to support what I was doing. And I'm not even joking. I had one that was maybe 3 weeks out or 4 weeks out from the run. And I was holding my shin under the table. And they're like, March 10, you ready to go? I'm like, I'm ready. I'm dialed in. Like, it was hard because I could not tell anyone. I put my Strava on private through that time because I wasn't really running. Here's this guy who's about to run around Oz. And I had to do all my conditioning in other ways. I had to keep strength training and just trust that I would be ready to go. So it was funny because, Mitch ran with me in the first day and 40K in. It was hot. It was 39 degrees, but I was a mess. And I remember Cara, Mitch's wife, said to him, is he going to make it?
Because, I stopped at that 40K mark and we're just in Berwick at the market there. Sean's sitting on a stool. Did not look well.
Wasn't well.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing, I think we're always in life waiting for the right time. And yes, like I say that with a caveat because, I don't mean for people to jump into a side business if they can't look after themselves or whatever it is. Like there's always a caveat to that. But in saying that, in life, like there will never be a perfect time. And I was in this position where I'd locked in the date. I couldn't change it. I committed to crew who'd taken annual leave in advance to be like, okay, I'm with you on these dates. Sponsors had committed. Apollo Motorhomes was one of them, and they'd given us a van for those dates. So no matter what, I had to find a way. I could have been a very public failure by trying to run around Oz 7 weeks after a stress fracture in my body, just packing it in, going, you can't do it. But I had to have blind faith that I'd done 6 years of hard work, that my body will get there. And about 3 weeks in, the first 3 weeks were really challenging. I had an 87K day and then an 88K day the next day. And I was like, this is massive progress. It's only a few more K a day, but this feels like I can feel this. And I'd lost a bit of weight, which was a big part of it. I think strength training was so key going into the run to have the strong tendons and bones and muscles to handle what I was doing. But at the same time, like I went into that run a little bit heavy, and that was hard too. So once I got to a nicer weight, once my body had begun to adapt, I started to reap the benefit of that. And of course, every day was still challenging with other things like nausea, but it just had a little adaptation period, which anyone doing an expedition with ultra running specifically, they know that. Can be a week, can be 2, can be 3. Everyone's a bit different. But I hit that nice rhythm and was like, okay, this is really good.
Day 114. I'm not well, but when you believe in something so immensely like I do, you put your heart, mind, and body on the line for it. I will get this done. Yeah. What was it like seeing him push through with that quote in mind?
I don't know. I think every day I woke up and I was just like, waking him up, watching him get out of bed and, progress from that throughout the whole day. It was just like, I don't know, it was pretty crazy, inspiring kind of thing. Like I don't know, could have had a rough day the day before, but, wakes up, smile on his face, ready to go. I don't know, it was just, inspiring every day that I was out there, kind of just seeing him go about his business and the way he does it.
I remember you saying in the 24-hour run that you reached breaking point and you'd never experienced anything like it. Mm-hmm. How would you compare those two?
The 24-hour run I did last year, Coburg, which would be the one you're referring to, I pushed 201K in 24 hours. So to do that, like you're running a lot harder. That was so tough. But again, it was a huge part of the journey that led me to believing and knowing that I was ready to do that one and then do the BVRT. That was all a part of it. Comparing the two is hard because on one, it's all out effort for 24 hours, but then I could, rest in bed and eat pizza. Versus this one was day after day after day after day. So you do go too hard, you go over that red line, there might not be a tomorrow. You have to always balance it as like, get the best result you can, but have, I guess, like that's within reason. So, it was like we pretty much tried to run from 5:30 till 8. Any longer than that, and I was in big trouble because then you're going into your sleep time, and like even though I didn't have that great quality sleep, having those hours to just like get that parasympathetic nervous system activated rather than just being on all day, sympathetic nervous system, trying to rest and recover was so important. And I think that from what I learned in Cairns to Melbourne, one of the logistics I learned or the troubles we had was the first time we had one vehicle, I learned, and I'm like, if I'm doing a record attempt, we have to have 2 motorhomes. And that might seem like a little thing to some people, but 2 motorhomes meant that, someone could drive ahead, set up camp and start cooking dinner. Someone in the morning could drive me to the start line to get going while the others could actually have a bit of a sleep in if needed. The second vehicle could go and pick up groceries while the other one continued to crew me. So everything was so well mapped out. Like we didn't get to this result by chance. This was 6 years of just unbelievable logistics that I'd learned over time from mistakes as well as, finding those answers along the way.
Were there things that you did to make it easier during your run? During it?
I felt like I just tried to be myself and, just, make it as enjoyable as possible for Shawnee, whether that was just, making him listen to Imagine Dragons. Like, I don't know, just making like, little inside jokes and, just try and get his mind off, what he was, actually doing. So, yeah, whether it was dress up and, run a leg dressed up or, just telling jokes, having just general chats, I felt like that was just, get his mind off, the mission that he was on.
Were there any times you thought he couldn't do it?
The only time was day one when we seen him. At that point. He obviously, he had a bit more weight on him, and it was, mind you, it was like 40-degree day.
Yeah.
So he obviously did look a bit drained, and I think you were going a little bit faster than you were planned as well. So he just looked, I don't know, pretty fatigued and pretty, cooked by 40K of the first day. But while I was out there, no, there wasn't a spot that I kind of thought that he was.
What about you?
Was there a moment where I thought I was done? Yeah, Tasmania.
Of course.
Yeah. Mainland Australia, absolutely not. But I think, like, time again,
of course. Yeah.
I love Tasmania, and I'm glad that I did it. It's part of Australia. Tasmania is not a part of the record. It's not a part of the mainland route. Other people who've run around Australia before me haven't included Tasmania. Pat Farmer has, though. And I was like, okay, well, when I set this goal in 2018, before I got in touch with Dave Alley to understand how it all works, Tasmania was a part of my plan. So I'm running Tasmania no matter what. And so when I originally set the goal to run around Australia, I envisioned that I would get to Geelong, catch the Spirit, do Tassie, then come back to Geelong to the G and finish at the G. I didn't think it would be a separate run in itself, but I learned that that would be the way to go about it. So what happened with logistics, when you're out there, you don't know exactly what date you're going to get back to the MCG. And so we had to book the Spirit of Tasmania in advance. We booked that for the Monday, the 26th of August, and I actually finished at the MCG, the lap of the mainland, on Thursday, the 22nd of August. So that meant that I had a few days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, in between. And my body started to really shut down. Like, if you do something 166 consecutive days around Australia to then go and do Tassie, I don't regret it because I was able to do it. We raised some more money. It was part of the adventure. Mitchie came along. My brother came along. We had a good time, Smithy. But at the same time, I was like, I look back and, I had hit breaking point. I had never experienced anything like that in my 6 years of ultra running, where on day 3, I genuinely thought I was done. And it was beyond willpower now, where I was just like, if you think about the compounding effect of where my body was at, I didn't know that my foot was broken at that point. I was running through a broken foot. I was violently spewing. I just thought I was done. But one of the great things in life is, we need to find people and choose wisely, people that we love and people in our corner who can instill belief in us when we lose that belief. And that's what I found. We needed to make some changes. Mitch came in to day 4, and Chloe, my girlfriend, was like to me, I don't want to be 5 years down the track and you not appreciating what you achieved on this run around Australia if you don't do Tasmania how you said you were going to do, which was Devonport to Hobart and back. She's like, you've got to get this done because you're going to undermine this entire achievement, and really you've done the lap of Australia. So go out there, finish this off, even if it's less Ks per day, who cares? Get it done. And we changed the approach and it ended up being 8 days rather than 7. It didn't matter. It was just good to be able to finish what we started.
Were you there when he finished the mainland run? At the MCG?
Yeah.
You rode day 166, we did it. Can you remember the emotion after it was all done?
Yeah, so I was pretty much right on the finish line, but yeah, Shawnee obviously pretty emotional. Obviously, you've just run around Australia completely, obviously very emotional, and then having all his closest mates and family there as well to congratulate him. Some that he hasn't seen. What you didn't see your mum since Broome.
Yeah.
You haven't seen your old man since before the run.
Yeah.
There's so much obviously there's emotion while he's going around, but that exact point, he's got surrounded by hundreds of people that actually cared and were in along the journey with him, and to finally Shawnee to see them, I felt like that was like a lot of emotion for him as well. But obviously, it was pretty much happiness, like happy emotion kind of thing at the end. But it was good.
I describe it like people ask what was the difference finishing at the MCG versus finishing Tassie. The G was elation. It was a feeling that I can't put into words. Tassie was relief. My body was done and I needed to rest. And that they were two very different things. And, maybe looking back, Tasmania could have been done at a separate time as its own run. Maybe I would have then run around Tassie rather than across it, because then it was the same road that I did, the A1, down and back up, which made it tough. Would have done it at a different time of year with weather, all of that. We had 95 k/h headwinds we were running into in Tasmania, brutal conditions, but I wanted to finish what I set out to do. And, I look back now and I am glad that I did Tasmania, because it's the person that I want to be. Like, I don't want to reach the top of a mountain, stay there, talk about it for years to come. But this is what I did. I want to be someone who's always trying to continue to get better and continue to, evolve and become a better athlete, better person, help others. So for me, it was like, you've reached the top of a mountain. Now we're back to work. Let's, it's a quote from my man Goggins where he talks about like, be humble and I go back to, the person you want to be. Like Goggins could be, and he has every right to be, traveling around the world in business class, speaking all the time, living in 5-star hotels and just talking about what he's done to this point. But people don't love him for what he's done. They love him for what he's doing. And he's someone who, helps you believe that you can be more. And that's what I hope that I can do with other people. And for me, when I realized crossing the line at the G, day 166, and there was a chant, giddy up, that was massive for me, because I was like, okay, people have really bought into this mantra, bought into this, and hopefully that to them, giddy up to them means, Sean ran around Australia in record time, but to them, giddy up might mean taking charge of their own health. It might mean upskilling for a job promotion. It might mean starting a side hustle. Whatever it is, it's helping people realize that they can do and be more.
What does giddy up mean to you?
Just basically keep going, And since then, like a lot of people will be out running or whatever, giddy up will get thrown out there. Like, it's just basically, for me, it's get on the horse and keep going.
What did that elation feel like? Because I remember that video, obviously when people do stuff like this, I think Instagram just know that the engage, because when you look at something so often, you're just the first thing that pops up. So I was looking at that a lot. And when I saw that, it's hard to put into words.
It is, yeah. I think as Mitch said, seeing friends and family I hadn't seen for so long. I think it's a balance. Like we spoke about before, he had to do things that would take my mind off what I was doing. But at the same time, I also needed to enjoy the journey and be present. So it was hard. Like I had to weigh up times, when do I put in earphones, because I want to hear wildlife around me and it's beautiful and take this all in. But other times I would get so frustrated with road trains going past me and the noise of it all, which, would just make me feel overwhelmed, that I had to lock in, or I had to listen to music. I had to run with a crew member. I had to call someone back home who I love and miss. So it's a balance between the two. And I think that, it was just that culmination of everything, all the hard work. Like when I was running into the G, I wasn't thinking about 166 days. I was thinking about 6 years. And, we did it.
Or did you still get triggered by those sounds, do you think?
Like the sounds of wildlife and stuff.
No, the road trains and everything.
No, like I had a great experience with them, to be honest. I think, and I've seen, and I like these boys, that they came and supported me, the Lambros Army, but they put up a video where they were running literally in the middle of, or pretty much the middle of the road. Like if the road train's on the left, they're in the middle of the right lane. And I wasn't doing that. Like, I think that you are already doing something that is so hard and so dangerous that you've got to be wise. Like, respect them, they'll respect you. And I had high vis, I had a flashing red light. I would jump off when I saw the road trains because I was running into the traffic. So like I was never really like triggered to, I guess, a scary level with the road trains. I wasn't having nightmares or anything about the road trains. I think that we took the right measures to make sure that everyone was safe.
I've learned a thing or two to take away with me outside of how to give a good foot massage and cook dinner. What do you think they are that you've learned? What are the things you think you've learned?
Just basically how he goes about his business, problem solving while he's out there. I think that's just, I don't know, that's ultra running and that's kind of what I'm into. So it's going to be about that problem solving while you're out there. It's not going to be, now. It might be, in a few hours you've got to kind of change the way you're running or change your nutrition kind of thing. That from a race kind of or running kind of sense, but just, I don't know, seeing how humble he is kind of out there, just kind of, I don't know, gives you like this, I don't know. It just makes you feel so much better about, I don't know, he makes the room feel better, with him just being in there kind of thing. So him just being so humble, I don't know, I felt like I took so much away, so many little things that, I've been putting in, in front of me since then, just to kind of create something, going forward.
That's actually the word that I spoke with Connor before this, and he said the humility shines through. How have you, or why do you think he has that view?
Well, I think it's something that I strive to be. Like every day we can make choices, and one for me is how I carry myself. I want to give time to every single person, no matter who they are. Whether they're like a CEO of a, massive company or whether they're someone, a waitress or a waiter at tables. Like, it doesn't matter. We're all just trying to do our best. And I have that perspective. And I've lived that. I've grown up where it was tough. I've felt not good enough. I've been a bench player and my mates are out there playing in the grand final. Like, I've lived that and I've found something. And I hope that other people can find something. Running changed my life. That first marathon, 20 years old, and I went so hard at it. Now, I couldn't have run around Australia without basically going all in for 7 years. But at the same time, I hope that other people, are lucky enough to find their thing and they put in the work to be able to achieve what they want to achieve. Because I think that whether you're, someone achieving a great feat or you're an average Joe, you're a person just, who's a great brother and a great husband and you're a great person like that. I love you just as much.
I asked Mitch, what's the main thing he took away from it? Now the question's to you.
What's the main thing I took away? That the highs can be greater than you expect and the lows can be greater than you expect. I think that everything in life has a cost and I wouldn't change it. I love the journey so much. I'm proud of the journey. We made a big difference. Got to live out a dream of such a long time. But now I'm paying for that with my physical body. And, I met with the foot surgeon yesterday and this Freiberg's, he's like, mate, this is basically arthritis. Like, it's where the bone has worn away and you might never have pain in your foot. Like, this might be something that I carry for the rest of my life. And I'll get back to running. I'll figure it out. I'll problem solve. But there is a cost. And, we spoke about, you spoke about feeling like you're not, even though you've done 60 episodes or thereabouts, which is incredible, in a year, feeling like you're not as far along as you'd like to be with the podcast. And I feel the same with my work, but it's been a sacrifice. So I think what I've learned over the journey is that you have to enjoy it because whatever it is that you're doing, life is short and there's highs and lows and everything has a cost. So choose wisely.
Is that sacrifice worth it?
It was. Yeah. It was a bit terrifying to hear that yesterday from the foot surgeon, but also we'll problem solve and we'll find a way. And I think that, you can create orthotics that offload that bone, that area. Like, we'll be okay. And running is a big part of my life, but maybe 2025 is the year of swimming and I need to, get coaches and get better because I'm a terrible swimmer and I don't want to be someone who's only a runner as well. I want to be someone who's, like I did if people were following me back then, and went from my first marathon to running around Australia at a double marathon average per day, I want to go from someone who's a terrible swimmer who, has anxiety going into the water, like anyone who feels like they're not good at something, to then hopefully going on to do Ironman and Ultraman. That's what I want to do.
Ross Edgley 2.0, mate.
Yeah.
Do you know him?
Yeah, I do. He's a big unit.
Run.
I'm not quite as big as Ross Edgley.
Oh, man, that was good. Did you see his run, his swim?
Yeah.
That was an absolute ridiculous
Yeah.
one. Oh, my God.
Parts of his tongue were falling off.
Yeah. I had a question there on the tip of my tongue. Have you thought about a life without running then?
No, I haven't, because I'll still be able to run. I know that. I can run. It's just that that bone, like basically if people look up Freiberg's, you can understand that once you develop that, you live with that forever. So it's not that I can't run. I just hope that I can get to, the levels that I want to go with running. And I want to get back to races. I love supporting other people. I love getting around the running community like they've supported me. I want to support them. So, yes, I've done charity feats like Cairns to Melbourne, the Run Around Australia, and the 50 marathons in 50 days. But I've also, done so many races along the way as well because I want to be a part of that. And I think that that's good to get around other people doing great things. And, most people can't, as I said, up and leave their work and their lives for something like this. So go and do 2 Bays 56, go and do Hut to Hut 100K, whatever it may be.
Tomorrow it's all over. I've come to the realisation my body is done, and while mentally that kills me because I want to get back to Devonport on my own 2 feet, I know that my body has nothing left to give. Were you with him when he wrote that?
Yeah, that would have been.
No, that would have been, that was night 3, and I called him, and you came in on the morning of.
So that was before.
Yeah, that was just before.
What did you walk into?
What's that, sorry?
What did you walk into when you saw him?
In Tassie, when you came in Tassie.
When I came in.
Do you remember what, like, was the aura in the air different than previous?
So how it happened was, and I mentioned this before, Chloe really instilled that belief when I thought I was properly done in Tasmania. It was day 3 of Tassie, but it was 169 days of ultra running. And I called Mitch because also I got used to a crew who were, we were a well-oiled machine. My crew across from Perth to Melbourne, it was ultra runners. From Broome to Perth, it was ultra runners. It was people who live that. They understand what's involved. So, they were like, Lucia might have been cooking while Mitch was making sure that everything was ready to go in my running belt. Yeah. And then same as we went across, Mally was cooking and Lockie was helping out, with everything. So it was so well systemized that I could just run. And I think one of the things that I didn't probably account for is we were in Tasmania. Smithy had experience crewing, but my younger brother Az didn't. And I was also a person down, like where I'd had 4 in the past, it was now me and those 2 crewing. So actually Tristan, who was our videographer, even helped and stepped in crewing. It was amazing. But it was challenging. And I think at a point where my body was completely done, like I know that I got up and finished it, but I do believe that I was completely done because I've felt the other side of that now. I felt the crash following finishing Tasmania. I've had, really hard days with energy and mental health, and it's been challenging. But Chloe, instilled that belief. She said there has to be a way. What else can you do? And I got Mitch on the phone, and he flew into Hobart the next day, and the journey continued. So we just needed to problem solve again, and he walked in and helped out.
Were you scared?
Yeah.
I was scared because I think that I didn't envision it going that way. And I think one of the strengths I have is I envision what I want, but I also envision stuff that can go wrong so that I'm prepared for it ahead of time. Like in that 200 miler in 2023, I was envisioning, all sorts of things happening, whether it be a hip injury, a foot injury, throwing up, and some of those things did happen, but I continued to push on. Tasmania, I guess my body had just, started to recover for a few days. Then you go again. I went over that red line that we spoke about. The first day was 90K and it was 1,000 meters of elevation. Went too hard, body started to decline. And, you're playing with fire when you do that.
That video where you're eating the donut or attempting to eat the donut, I can't even put into words that video.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
What was that before?
It's just before you got there. It's where I'm like trying to eat the donut and then I start coughing and that turns into a spew. My body was just so done.
I think, what was it? When you basically you did that video basically saying that you're pulling the pin, and I was kind of like a bit like, that doesn't seem like Sean.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I flicked him a message just congratulating him, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then, the next day I got the call from him and I thought, it's just going to have a chat. And he's like,
burn the boats.
He's like, and my wife, she was away in the Philippines at this stage as well. So we kind of, because originally I was meant to go out in Tassie for the whole trip. Mm-hmm. He's like, I know you probably can't make it because Kara's away, but is there any chance you could fly to Tasmania tomorrow? And I'm like, we actually might be able to make this work, because Kara actually flew in from the Philippines. I think she got in like 6 a.m. So I'm like, if we can make a flight where it's able to work in that, I drive to the airport, pick her up, park, and then we can have breakfast, and then she go home, I'll fly to Tassie. So we made it work like that, which, it did. And then obviously I knew Shawnee was in a different spot. Like,
did you notice that?
How he was feeling. Obviously, I think we were both excited to kind of, that we were both coming back together kind of thing. But there was definitely, he was still the same. I felt like it was still the same Sean, but like, there was definitely, the weather. The
just
weather was
so much
something
more
different.
fatigue.
I heard you say worse than 50 years.
It was. Like, not even exaggerating that. People can look it up. It was
ice cold.
It was just,
rain.
and I started to get sick as well. Like, I had something going on. I was constantly coughing, and it's just tough. Like it was another level tough that I'd never experienced in 6 years of racing and running. But we had to find a way, and I think that being a running coach now, like, there'll be other runners listening to this who've had a DNF before in their race. And because of how the Tasmania run is, it's like a multi-day. I mean, effectively, if I was doing a 100-mile race, like, I've DNF'd, I've said I'm done, I've walked away. But we spray painted the ground that night. We came away, we had dinner, I had a conversation with Chloe, and she's like, you don't have to be done. Like, see how you go tomorrow. I know you feel like you honestly have no choice right now, and I did feel that way. But you might come good, just give it a go. And maybe it was almost that, like, feeling of, okay, it's done, and giving my body, at least my mind, a chance to think that I was done. But then the next morning I was like, no, I'm actually not done. We can continue. So, I always share that with people. There's no point hiding that, because that's real. And there's other runners out there who've had a DNF, and that's really hard. You train for months or even a year, multiple years, depending on what the race is. And if you DNF, that can really shatter your confidence. And I say to people, like, I've never DNF'd a race, but if this Tasmania run was a race, I've DNF'd effectively, because it was only because of the nature of it that I could come back the next day, that I could change my mind and continue to go. So Mitch came in, we got better systems in place, and we were able to finish the thing off. But I really did feel what it would feel like to DNF, and that was really tough.
I feel embarrassed within myself at that call I made yesterday. I'd never quit on anything in my life, but yesterday I felt like I'd truly reached the end. I had nothing left.
Yeah,
embarrassed.
Yeah, no, I was, and I stand by it, because, like, I was then able to change the goal, shorten the Ks, still get back to Devonport, but coming out of that run, like, my body was, absolutely done. And it's been now 4 months. I'm still in a moon boot. Like, there's issues. So I truly was at breaking point. I don't think other people can, like, understand what that feels like until you've done what I've done. But at the same time, it's not who I am to quit. And having that reaction from Mitchie, like, oh, this is weird. Like, Lockie, I called Lockie, and Lockie said the same. Like, I called Mally said the same. Like, this is not you, mate. Like, let's try and find something from within. I thought that was all tapped out, but I was able to find a way.
How did you help him get to Devonport?
I think just bringing in what I brought down the West Coast kind of thing. Just, I went out with a few legs video, got a trot on. But yeah, just basically bringing that same, have a joke, have a chat, try and get his mind off, what's ahead, and just basically bring that back in, just to make it that little bit easier. I just thought be myself and try and make him laugh.
Did it make you feel inadequate in any way? Like, not, I know it's a tough question, but like, when I see people doing stuff like that, I'm like, shit. Like, I need to be going. I need to take a big hard look at myself and say, am I really giving it a red hot crack?
Like, as in me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I felt like once I was out there, I was like all in. Like, I'm kind of the person that I don't like half-ass something, so I won't go in and kind of, just do bare minimum or something. I'll go there and do what I have to obviously make him, complete a day. Like, I'll kind of not leave anything, unturned. We'll problem solve and get our way through the day.
6.5 years in the making. Don't let anyone tell you your dreams are too big. Go and get it. Giddy up.
Giddy up.
6.5 years, man.
Yeah.
What does it feel like? Can you put into words now that 6.5 years is up? Can you put into words what it feels like now that it is?
It was the true definition of a journey. Just highs and lows, the highest of highs, the elation of finishing at the MCG, the most devastating lows in losing Jace along the way. But again, it's just like, it's made me the person I am. And, without going into too much detail, I spoke about how it was hard growing up. But, I wouldn't be the person I am without that experience. So we have different ways of looking at our adversities. And if you can be someone who can, honor that that's hard and own that, this is hard, but I can make changes if I put in the work or if I find people to support me at this time, you can become that person. And 2017 at Tony Robbins' seminar, hearing Stu Middleman, I thought he was a predisposed genetic freak who ran 85K a day for 56 days. I just ran 84K a day for 166 days. So I didn't get there overnight. I did it over such a long period of time, but it's just ultimately trying to be the person that you want to be and then working towards it every single day.
I've got a quote here that'll, I think good way to end it. But you spoke about the lows. I'm not sure how you could position this quote, but I guess it's a good reminder of the journey that you've been on and the impact that some people in your life have had on you. So I think it'd be good to read it out. Good way to end it. And can't kind of thank you both enough for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
My coach, Jace, enabled me to reach my innate potential. He taught me if you love something and you're great at it, use it to help and inspire others. While heaven is far away, we set this goal together and we'll finish this goal together. Joey, while you are no longer with us physically, your spirit is alive in me and everyone else you touched. You are the star that shines above, and you deserve this more than anyone. When you passed away, I made the commitment to live every day like you did. With the huge smile you had, 100% effort and a big handshake for everyone that I meet. The 50 marathons in 50 days might be over, but this is just the beginning. I love you, Joey.
Mm-hmm. Giddy up.
Giddy up.
Mate, thanks for having us. And
of course, man.
Like, I think, it's human nature to feel like sometimes I feel inadequate. I've felt that in a different area of my life, in business and things like that. But like what you've done this year, working full time, doing nearly 60 episodes, I've actually had a podcast and found that so hard to be able to do. So give yourself some credit and let's keep working towards.
This is 59, man. I got one more to do till 60. I appreciate it though. It's been definitely been a lot of work, but wouldn't change it for the world.
Bloody hell.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.